Xie Qingyu, who stayed up late to rank, woke up and became Miss 7 of the Xie family in the general's mansion. The general's mansion adheres to the hereditary system of inheritance from father to son and from brother to brother. All the children of the Xie family died in battle, leaving behind a group of elderly, weak, women, and children. The emperor sympathized and issued a special order to allow Xie Qingyu, the 7th miss of the Xie family, to inherit the general's mansion and be granted the title of 5th rank 1000 general to support the lintel. In this city surrounded by wolves, it is difficult to survive with a group of deep houses in the backyard. Fortunately, when Xie Qingyu crossed over, he carried a system of King of Glory with him. He didn't understand the officialdom and had a small problem. In the beginning, there was Ying Zheng, and in the end, there was Lu Bang. The strength value is low, good guy. This hero gives a skill, that hero gives a skill, and the strength value directly explodes on the table. If you don't know how to lead troops in battle, there are many heroes in the King of Glory system who can conquer and fight well. Just pick them randomly. Not understanding the way of doing business, simply taking out various modern things is a piece of cake. There are many tricks in the backyard of the mansion, it's okay. Empress Wu Zetian of the first generation is direct and versatile. In this way, the timid and cautious Xie Qingyu accidentally became the protector general of the state of Zhao, and his wealth was abundant, comparable to that of the enemy country, and he was still a daughter. P.S. The content is all fictitious, please do not be meticulous. Keywords of the novel: unstable card drawing, unstable mansion door without pop-ups, unstable card drawing, unstable mansion door. Download the full text, unstable card drawing, unstable mansion door. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Appointing Wude as Cavalry Captain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Appointing Wude as Cavalry Captain. Madam, Miss is awake. As soon as Xie Qingyu opened his eyes and wasn't quite awake, he heard a crisp child voice say so. Madam, Mississippi. What kind of thing? Without waiting for Xie Qingyu to react, a stunning woman in her 20s dressed in ancient costumes rushed towards her. Choked up and said, Nan, my good daughter, you scared my mother. If you have someone at least, how can my mother survive? As she was speaking, another woman came to her face and hurriedly bowed beside her, saying, Madam, someone has arrived in the palace. Madam, please hurry to the front hall to receive the order. Upon hearing these words, Lady Mei Yan quickly asked the maid beside her to bring Xie Qingyu's clothes and put them on for her. After a period of chaos, Xie Qingyu, who was in a daze, followed the crowd to the front yard. They were probably the last to arrive, and the yard was already full of people kneeling. Without waiting for her to take a closer look, she was kneeled down by the person beside her. Everyone is here, Grandpa, please announce the decree, said the elderly woman kneeling at the eunuch who came to announce the decree. The eunuch opened the imperial edict and said, the Xie family received the edict and followed the will of heaven. The emperor decreed. Xie Qingyu will serve the country, be loyal and courageous, gallop on the battlefield, invincible, and make foreign invaders fearful. Our army will win a great victory, but heaven will not bless our country. The death of Xie Qingyu as a hero on the battlefield and his sacrifice for the country is a great regret of our country, and the whole country will mourn. We posthumously honored Xie Qingyu as the Duke of Xinhua, and rewarded him with 5,000 taels of gold. The Xie family is full of loyalty and martyrs, and I cannot bear to see such a loyal and brave family wither from then on. Therefore, we conferred the title of Xie Qingyu. Miss Xie Qingyu of the 7th family was appointed as the commander-in-chief of the Wude cavalry from the 5th rank of the 1000 generals, in order to inherit her father's aspirations. Qin this. Madam, let Miss 7 come and take the order. After the eunuch finished reading the order, he said to the old woman kneeling at the head. Xie Qingyu was pondering the words of the imperial edict when he saw the old woman turn her head and look at the beautiful woman beside her, saying, from the 3rd family, take Qingyu forward to receive the edict. Although still in a state of confusion, with Xie Qingyu's years of experience as a bookworm, she should have traveled through time. Regardless of anything else, sending this eunuch away is the most important thing. So he leaned forward and kowtowed in the same way as on TV, saying, Xie Qingyu, have received the order. Long live the emperor, long live the emperor. Eunuch Zhang, the eunuch in charge next to the emperor, came to announce the decree with a sense of comfort. He looked at the little person in front of him and smiled, saying, Miss 7, the general's mansion will depend on you from now on. Xie Qingyu took the imperial edict and temporarily pressed down on his thoughts, saying, Thank you, Grandpa. After Xie Qingyu received the imperial decree, Mrs. Xie and others stood up and asked the grandmother next to them to hand the pre-prepared purse to Zhang. They said, Grandpa Zhang has worked hard all the way, come in and have a cup of tea. After accepting the purse, Zhang nodded and said, No, our family still needs to go back to the palace to report. Let's say goodbye first. Madam Xie, please stay. After Zhang left, Mr. Xie said to the beautiful woman, from the third family, Qingyu has just woken up. Take her back to rest first, and we will discuss the rest later. Yes, mother. The third lady bowed and said goodbye to everyone. After accompanying Xie Qingyu back to her yard, the third lady told her, You must be tired. Wait until you have drunk congee and then lie down to rest. After the third lady left with all her busy work, Xie Qingyu finally calmed down and reflected on her current situation. She, who is ranked first in the King of Glory, was still staying up late last night to challenge the King of Glory while the season was not yet updated. She woke up and faced a group of strangers, but before she could react, she was escorted to take orders, with one heavy bomb after another. So now she has dressed up in the general's mansion, becoming the 7th miss in the mansion, and even holding a 5th rank official position. Although listening to the imperial decree meant to appease the Xie family, why did she obtain this title? Isn't it because the woman she was wearing from this dynasty could still hold an official position? Looking at the little girl next to her, who was only about 8 years old but had the same etiquette and rules, Xie Qingyu hesitated and said, Are you called Green Bamboo? I just heard my mother call you that. Green Bamboo was a bit puzzled, but the young lady's words sounded a bit off. She suppressed her thoughts and said, As for the young lady, the name of the servant is indeed Green Bamboo, or was it given by the lady? Although Green Bamboo is only 8 years old, Xie Qingyu dare not underestimate it at all. It is said that ancient people were precocious. She is not the original Xie Qingyu, and there is naturally a gap between her movements, demeanor, and memory. It is impossible for her to deceive people around her. After careful consideration, she decided to pretend to have amnesia. Although the meme of amnesia is cliché, it's not practical. Thinking of this, Xie Qingyu took Green Bamboo's hand and said, I have something to tell you. In order not to make my mother worry, you must keep it a secret for me. Without waiting for a response from Green Bamboo, Xie Qingyu continued, I seem to have dissociation syndrome. I only remember if my name is Xie Qingyu or Miss 7 from the general's mansion, and I don't remember anything else. Mississippi, exclaimed Green Bamboo, no wonder she hasn't said anything since waking up just now. She thought Miss hadn't recovered because of the general's death. There are many things that I don't know. In order to prevent my mother and grandmother from noticing, you have to talk to me carefully so that I can cover them up. Regardless of whether Zhou told the people in the general's mansion that she had amnesia or not, she only said this as an excuse to be found out later that her personality was different from the original Xie Qingyu. Using this excuse, Xie Qingyu learned about the world from the mouth of Green Bamboo. At the end of the war, the state of Zhao where she was located had ethnic groups from the grasslands such as Chang, Beidi, and Mabe to the north, Lingye, Nanyuan, and Ingwa to the south, Ningyuan to the east, and Xixia to the west. The terrain is not bad. If neighboring countries attacked the country in one fell swoop, Zhao would be surrounded by enemies. Fortunately, the war has just ended and all countries are recuperating, so there will be no more wars for the time being. However, far from it, the situation she is currently facing is not optimistic. The war had just ended, and the general's mansion had made remarkable achievements. It was supposed to be a time of constant favor and enjoyment. Unexpectedly, all 7 generals of the Xie family died in battle, leaving only a few backyard women and her 7-year-old child behind. Although she is now the 5th rank and 1,000 generals bestowed upon her by the Holy Emperor, overseeing a camp under the Kyoto garrison in the capital city, with 1,000 people under her command, these are all illusions at this time. Her name is just a decoration and she has no real power. Moreover, as the legitimate daughter of the general's mansion, etiquette and upbringing are essential. However, as a person who has traveled through the modern world, how can she understand ancient etiquette? Everything must be done from scratch. Ah, it's difficult. Ding dong. Welcome to the glory of kings. While lost in thought, a mechanical voice suddenly sounded. Looking up, there was an additional panel in front of me, which was the treasure hunting interface of King of Glory. The electronic mechanical sound was introducing the gameplay of treasure hunting. Unlike Honor of Kings, the prizes in this treasure pool are various experience cards, some are skills, some are props, and some are talent points. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Soul Separation Syndrome. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Soul Separation Syndrome. The treasure hunting system has 3 interfaces. One is the points treasure hunting system, one is the diamond treasure hunting system, and the other is the linglong treasure hunting system. Honor points, diamonds, linglong points, coins, and coupon balance seem to be the data on her game, as it happens to be what she saw last night. Points 290, diamonds 10356, linglong points 90, coins 98,059, and coupons 0. The rules for looting and the conversion between various items are almost the same as in the game of King of Glory. The difference is that the amount of conversion and looting has increased by an additional 0, and the prizes in the prize pool have also changed. The recharge of vouchers has changed from unit yuan to unit liang. The points prize pool consists of various divine level, rare, and ordinary hero skills and items, mixed with a very small number of epic level skills and items. Diamond prize pool is rare, ordinary, and mixed with divine level, while linglong prize pool is a variety of talent points. Speaking of talent points, the login page of the treasure hunting interface is a character, with character information and various attributes marked on it. Name: Xie Qingyu. Occupation: Wude Cavalry Captain. Congenital qualification: 50, 100, Combat Focus. 18, 100, Sharp Thinking. 25, 100, Affinity. 53, 100, Strategy. 41, 100, Sensitivity. 35, 100, Physical Fitness. 27, 100, Looking at this, it seems that 100 is the upper limit of each attribute, but this data is also a bit ugly. Surprisingly, there is not a 60. Her qualifications are so poor. At least she has also been a king several times, and she didn't even get a 60 attribute. After studying the treasure hunting system for a while, Xie Qingyu didn't know if it was due to his weak body or the aftermath of his previous fainting. Soon, he felt exhausted and fell asleep. After watching her fall asleep, Green Bamboo hurried to the third lady's yard, but didn't see her. He said he had gone to the old lady's Songtao courtyard. Thinking that Miss Seven's amnesia was not a small matter, the earlier the masters knew, the better. Green Bamboo gritted his teeth and headed toward Songtao courtyard. Although Miss Seven asked her to keep it a secret, her actions were no different from those of the master, but she felt it was better to let the masters know about such a big matter. At such a young age, she couldn't make up her mind. When I arrived at the Songtao courtyard, I was pulling at the door and looking inside when I was seen by the steward Wang Mama next to the old lady. Wang Mama frowned at her appearance and asked, "What is that little girl at the door doing?" Upon hearing Wang Mama's inquiry, Green Bamboo quickly walked into the courtyard from the door and bowed to her, "Hello Wang Mama. It's Green Bamboo. Why did you come to Songtao Courtyard without taking care of Miss Seven?" But what did Miss Seven make a mistake? Wang Mama saw that it was the big girl next to Xie Qingyu, afraid that something might happen to her. She quickly asked. "Wang Mama, Miss is fine and has already fallen asleep. I came to find third madam. Just now, Miss told me that she has lost her soul and doesn't remember anything. Miss asked me to keep it a secret, and I was panicked. I quickly came out to find third madam while Miss was asleep." Upon hearing Wang Mama's inquiry, Green Bamboo seemed to have found the backbone and said everything with a clatter. "This is amazing, come with me quickly." Upon hearing Green Bamboo say this, Wang Mama quickly grabbed Green Bamboo's small hand and dragged her into the room. As soon as I entered the room, I saw the head of the whole family here. On the main seat sat the old lady, with the first lady, third lady, and second young lady on the right, and the second lady, first young lady, and third young lady on the left. After bowing, Grandma Wang said to her superiors, "Madam, just now Green Bamboo said that Miss Seven may have suffered from soul separation syndrome." "What? Green Bamboo, what you said is well-founded." As soon as Grandma Wang finished speaking, Madame San quickly stood up and looked at Green Bamboo. The first time Green Bamboo saw so many masters, he felt a bit flustered. After kneeling down, he stuttered and recounted what had just happened. No wonder. The third lady sat back on the chair with no strength, murmuring. "What's going on with the third lady's family?" The old lady looked at the shape of the third lady and said. Upon hearing the old lady's question, the third lady lifted her head and sobbed, "I've been skeptical since I woke up as a girl, but I can't quite grasp it. I'm planning to invite a doctor tomorrow to take a look." As soon as she woke up, her eyes were blank and bewildered, like a puppet, and she didn't act coquettishly towards me like before. She looked at me like a stranger, never calling me out since waking up. At this point, the third lady took out her handkerchief and dried the tears at the corner of her eyes, then said, "I think she may still be immersed in the sorrow of losing her father. That's why she didn't mention letting her rest well. When she went to invite the doctor to come to her door tomorrow, who knew it was so?" After speaking, the third lady was already sobbing uncontrollably and only focused on wiping away her tears. "This is so good, why did this happen again?" The old lady heard the third lady say it and felt a moment of sadness in her heart, followed by crying. A few ladies and young ladies also feel uncomfortable in their hearts. The Xie family is just a lone child. At any rate, is this family still a family? Mother, don't be sad for now. There is no consensus at this time, let's wait for the doctor to see. The eldest lady stood up and comforted the old lady. Right, it's better to quickly invite the doctor. Xiangju, hurry to Jishir Hall and invite Dr. Qin. No, you go tell Gardley to go ahead and make him walk faster. As soon as Madam reminded me, everyone rushed to give you a word, and I arranged it one by one. In no time, Dr. Qin was invited and everyone walked towards the Qingzhou garden in a grand manner. Upon arriving at Qingzhou garden, I saw another big maid of Xie Qingyu, Bai Ji, leading a group of little girls to do needlework. Wang Mama approached and whispered, "Bai Ji, did Miss Seven ever wake up?" I haven't replied to Grandma's words. Bai Ji quickly stood up and saluted as she saw so many people, waving her hand to dismiss the little girls beside her. After Bai Ji went to Xie Qingyu's room to take care of it, Wang Mama returned to the old lady and whispered, "Old lady, you can go in now." In Xie Qingyu's room, everyone looked at Dr. Qin with a serious expression on their face. They waited until they left the room and asked, "Dr. Qin, how are you doing? Miss Seven's health is not seriously affected, but she is a bit weak. I will prescribe a prescription for her to supplement. She needs to pay attention to her diet, eat light, and gradually increase her body odor." Dr. Qin stroked her beard and advised. Upon hearing the doctor's words, the third lady exclaimed urgently, "Is that all?" But when the girl woke up today, her eyes were confused. She could do whatever she was asked to do with a string puppet, and she didn't know anyone else. After a moment of contemplation, Dr. Qin hesitated and said, "This situation is almost the same as soul separation syndrome." "Has there ever been a cure?" the old lady asked. Dr. Qin replied, "Soul separation syndrome has existed since ancient times, but there is no cure. Finding the location of the disease and adding a little stimulation may lead to a possible recovery. However, it may also have the opposite effect. Miss Seven's current situation may be the best outcome for her." End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Treasure Hunting System. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Treasure Hunting System. After seeing that the Xie family had been silent for a long time, Dr. Qin bowed and said, "Madam, this humble person will bid farewell first." The old lady regained her senses and nodded, saying, "Guardly, send off Dr. Qin." After the two of them left, everyone sighed and the third lady hesitated and said, "Mother, listen to the doctor's advice, The old lady sighed and said to the crowd, "Qingyu is still young, and life has just begun. Let her be like this, let nature take its course. You also need to be careful not to mention her father in front of her, so as not to provoke her and cause incalculable consequences." "Yes, mother. Grandma, we'll save it." Everyone responded one after another. "Green Bamboo, you haven't mentioned anything about today. We don't even know about your young lady's amnesia, do you understand?" The eldest lady looked at Green Bamboo and knocked. "Yes, madam, I have never been out of the Qingyu garden today and have been staying in the yard." Green Bamboo, who is also clever, quickly replied. "You should also knock on the people in Qingyu garden privately and tell them not to chew their tongues." The second lady followed suit as she said so. From the Ministry of Servants and Servants. When Xie Qingyu woke up, it was already o'clock the next day. He was getting up sparsely when he heard a crisp childlike voice coming from beside him. "Miss is awake, you need to drink water." Xie Qingyu turned her head and looked at a little maid about the size of a green bamboo with bright eyes. She knew that this was her other big maid, named by Xie. Just as he felt his mouth dry, Xie Qingyu nodded. "Perhaps it is simmering on the stove, and the entrance is hot." After drinking water, Xie Qingyu said, "There's something to eat, I'm a bit hungry. There are congee, dim sum and chicken soup. Which would you like to eat, Mississippi?" "Have a bowl of chicken soup, and give me some dim sum, which should be salty." In fact, Xie Qingyu wanted to eat something hot and spicy, and felt that there was no taste in his mouth. But thinking that her body might be a bit weak, she stopped tinkering. Who knows if she can return to this world without tinkering? Having had breakfast, it was already daylight outside. After lying in the room for a whole day and feeling his bones soft, Xie Qingyu had someone set up a lounge chair in the yard and go out to bask in the sun. Yesterday, she had already studied the treasure hunting system a bit, and today she is planning to try her luck to grab a treasure and indulge in luxury. As soon as you log in, it's the check.in page where you can earn coins, diamonds, and even glory points every day. However, honor points can only be obtained by signing in continuously for half a month, and it seems that the amount is only 20 points. At present, the interfaces she can open are the treasure hunting page and check.in page. I don't know if the rest will be triggered later. Diamond Treasure Hunt, in the game of King of Glory, it only costs 60 to win a treasure at once, but here it actually costs 600. The points and linglong are also the same amount. Do you want to be so pitted? Looking at the low points and character attributes, Xie Qingyu is preparing to use linglong points to steal treasures and enhance her talent points. After all, in this world without human rights, if you want to survive until the end, you cannot survive without some intelligence. After looking at linglong's points, it's only 90, far from 600. Open it casually to redeem linglong points. Wow, 600 linglong points actually cost 50,000 gold coins or 6,000 diamonds to redeem, and the coupon is also 6,000. And looking at the amount of recharge coupons, it's only 10 coupons for 100 taels of silver. In ancient times, silver was so valuable. Isn't this stealing money? You should know that Linglong treasure is the cheapest one, but here it's the opposite. If she had known one day that she would wear it, she would have exchanged all the gold coins, inscriptions, diamonds, and so on for Linglong points. She only has 90 points. In the game world, 500 gold coins can be exchanged for 60 Linglong points, and 60 diamonds or 60 vouchers can earn 60 Linglong points. However, here is an additional 0. It has increased tenfold. One more thing, she can only open the treasure winning page and check that IN page now. She couldn't open the previous purchase of honor points. So, isn't all she can use now just diamond and Linglong treasures? I'm not sure if Linglong's treasure hunting can be used at the moment. I'll wait until I'm familiar with the general's mansion. After all, so much silver can't be used casually. Based on her current balance, if she exchanges all her gold coins and diamonds, she can only exchange for over 2,000 Linglong points. Diamonds are enough, but she only has over 10,000 points. After drawing a dozen or so times, she won't have any more. Anyway, it's not urgent now, so let's just keep it for later use. Xie Qingyu, feeling dejected, was about to exit the treasure hunting system when he discovered that there was a backpack on the login interface, in addition to the check that IN and character panel. I casually opened my backpack and saw a card lying alone inside. Card. When did you get it? Could it be after falling asleep yesterday? I clicked on it and looked at the details. It turned out to be a beginner gift package given by the system. Although it was just an experience card, it was better than nothing. This is an experience card for Empress Wu Zetian. After use, you can temporarily obtain Empress Wu Zetian's Empress skills, officialdom struggles, backyard fights, and even the abilities of imperial subordinates, all of which are effortless. It can instantly transform a person from an ordinary weak chicken to a big shot with the pinnacle of talent. The only drawback is that the skill can only last for one day. The usage method is also very simple, just click on the use button next to it to apply it to the user. There is no difference in the use of experience cards compared to games. It's really important to find some differences, one is virtual and the other is real, making it more advanced and exciting. Keep this thing for now, in case of any unexpected need. However, compared to temporary experiences, it is certainly more attractive permanently. Summoning the nearby green bamboo, Xie Qingyu prepared to inquire about the prices here and the purchasing power of 1 or 2 silver coins. Whether it's survival here or participating in treasure hunting to obtain skills, props, talents, etc., it all depends on money. We need to prepare for making money. Although she is a vegetable chicken in this world, it seems that she is also, you can tell by looking at the poor character's attribute panel. Perhaps the various attributes above are her, not the true Xie Qingyu. After all, she is a descendant of a general, and her mother also comes from a noble family, so it is impossible for her to give birth to such a garbage. So there is no doubt that the character attribute of that garbage is undoubtedly her own. All of this is harmless, as long as you bring the food, drink, and use of the world here to sell and make money, it's not safe. Not to mention that she has the treasure hunting system in hand, just based on her worldly knowledge, that is also a stable and superior figure for everyone here. However, despite that, she needs to plan well and don't mess up her hand with a good hand. Green bamboo, let me ask you. Forget it, how much money do I have for my private property? I was originally planning to ask about the prices here, but I thought about green bamboo following the original owner every day and not caring about the procurement. So I decided to go out and take a look at the market. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Money Snatching System. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Money Snatching System. Miss Hui, besides those jewelry and toys, you have 3,000 taels of silver in your hand now, said Green Bamboo respectfully. 3,000. Her father died in battle on the battlefield, and the emperor only gave 5,000 taels of gold. Her 17-year-old child's private money was a full 3,000 taels of silver. Is this general's mansion quite wealthy? Take 500 taels, your young lady. I'll take you out shopping today. Xie Qingyu waved his hand and raised his voice. Wude hesitated for a moment and looked at Xie Qingyu, persuading, "Miss, you have just recovered from your serious illness. Why don't you rest for another 2 days? The people coming and going outside may not be good for your health." "Harmful? It's because I'm not in good health. That's why I need to exercise more, get in touch with anger more, and my body will recover quickly." Xie Qingyu waved his hand, ignoring it. Green Bamboo compromised and said, "Then I'll go and consult Madam first." Without waiting for Xie Qingyu to respond, he quickly bowed and walked out of the yard. "This little girl runs quite fast." Xie Qingyu sighed as she watched Green Bamboo walk away. In the end, Xie Qingyu was still unable to go out to play that day and was detained in the Qingzhou garden for a few days before being released from the yard. "Green Bamboo, let Uncle Li stop in front and let's get off for a stroll," Xie Qingyu whispered to Green Bamboo sitting next to him. Uncle Li is the guard who went to invite Dr. Qin before. Originally, everyone in the general's mansion was worried that Xie Qingyu would come alone and prepare for a big family to go out. Xie Qingyu talked and talked for a long time, but only then did the elders of the Xie family agree to let her take her maid out, on the condition that Li Guard bring a few guards along. "She's here to investigate the market, not really to go shopping. If those aunties and sister-in-law come out together, then she's not going shopping, but sitting in a different place and daydreaming." In the past few days, she has come to understand that although women of this dynasty could go shopping, there were very few who wandered from the street to the end of the street. "Basically, I sit in the upstairs wing room of a shop, drink tea and eat dim sum when I choose. If there are other shops I want to visit, I will go to the next one." In this way, it's not bad to be able to visit 3 or 5 households in a day, let alone the entire street. "Young master, get off the car," Li Guard said to Xie Qingyu in the carriage after stopping the carriage. Today, Xie Qingyu and Green Bamboo by Xie came out wearing men's clothing, as men's clothing is more convenient to do things. Although she is the 7th miss of the general's mansion and holds the title of 5th rank martial virtue cavalry captain, no one knows that it was just compensation from the emperor to the Xie family, just a nominal name. Don't be fooled by the fact that the general's mansion is still prosperous and prosperous. In the next 3 to 5 years, whether there is a general's mansion in this capital will have to be discussed separately. So, she had to take advantage of the remaining power of the general's mansion now, and the emperor still felt guilty and took good care of it, so as to fulfill her family business and the title of Wude's cavalry captain. Although it's difficult, she has now been appointed as an official by the emperor. Isn't it easier to live up to her name than Wuzetian and Mulan? With the blessing of the treasure hunting system, the top of the mountain in front of her is mostly a pile of mountains. "Uncle Li, let's go up to the tavern and sit down first," Xie Qingyu suggested as he looked at Li, who was directing his men to pull the carriage to the side. After wearing it for so few days, the only way she can think of making money is to open a store. Regardless of the era, food, drink, entertainment, clothing, housing, and transportation are indispensable. Therefore, today she will mainly examine these aspects and also take a look at the price situation to make a decision. A few people arrived at the hottest restaurant in this prosperous capital city, ordered several signature dishes in duplicate, and set up 2 tables. Xi, Bai Ji, Green Bamboo, and Li Huwei sat at the same table, and Li Huwei brought several guards to the same table. To Xie Qingyu's surprise, there was actually a soup pot here, which was almost the same as hot pot in this world. With a taste-driven attitude, she ordered 2 more soup pots after ordering those signature dishes. After the dishes were served, Xie Qingyu tasted the soup pot first, which was quite delicious, but compared to the spicy hot pot she had tried before, it still lacked some flavor. After all, she is a loyal fan of chili peppers. Although not spicy ones are delicious, spicy ones are even more delicious. By the way, she has been here for so few days and hasn't eaten anything spicy yet. Her mouth has faded away, and she doesn't know if there are chili peppers in this world. After eating the soup pot, Xie Qingyu tried several other dishes, including stir-fried vegetables, steamed pork with flour, 3 cups of chicken, sweet and sour pork loin, and braised pork belly in brown sauce. Each has its own taste, but most of them are sweet and delicious. However, for someone who doesn't like spicy food, it still feels a bit lacking. Chili is a business opportunity, and who can resist the temptation of chili? Chili is the eternal god. After a meal, there were 2 whole tables of dishes with no expenses of 1 or 2 silver coins, only 756 copper coins, which was much cheaper than Xie Qingyu had imagined. After leaving the restaurant, Xie Qingyu went to a ready-to-wear shop, a tea house, a jewelry store, and an antique shop. After a round trip, I also gained a rough understanding of the market trends in various industries and had a lot of calculations in mind. 1 or 2 gold coins here are 10 taels of silver, and 1 or 2 silver coins are 1,000 copper coins. If compared to Chinese yuan, 1 or 2 silver coins are only over 1,000 yuan. Thinking of this, Xie Qingyu also thought of the dam conversion in the treasure hunting system. Linglong can only win a treasure once with 600 linglong points, 6,000 points for 600 linglong points, and 100 taels of silver for 10 points. Based on 1 or 2 taels of silver and 1,000 yuan, if she wants to win a treasure once, she will have to spend 60 million renminbi. Even with silver, it costs 60,000 taels. The pension she received from her father who died in battle was only 5,000 taels of gold. 60,000 taels of silver require 2 deaths to manage enough. This is not a treasure hunting system, it's clearly a money-grabbing system. Even more pitfalls than the game, it has been flipped 10 times. However, considering the incredible hero experience card in the backpack, it is understandable that the talent points of Linglong's treasure hunting fundamentally change a person's qualifications. After all, one is temporary, while the other is permanent. Returning to the mansion, I was about to report my safety to the old lady when I saw a steward in the hall sighing and walking out. "I've seen Miss 7. The steward passed by Xie Qingyu's side, bowed, and then stood up and left. Xie Qingyu turned around and walked towards the hall. As soon as they entered, except for their grandmother and a few sister-in-law, both aunts and mothers were present, each with a slight frown. "Auntie, second mother, mother." Xie Qingyu called out one by one and stood up. "Qingyu has returned, but he still had a great time playing," the eldest lady exclaimed, gathering her spirits. Xie Qingyu nodded and asked again, "What happened?" Auntie and mother have a worried expression on their faces. Looking at the only child in the Xie family, the few of them looked at each other and decided to tell her. At the age of 7, she should start learning how to manage things. There should be no accidents. This huge mansion will be handed over to her in the future, so don't let outsiders bully her if you don't understand anything. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Xie Family Silk Shop. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. Xie Family Silk Shop. The steward in charge of the tea shop at home has just arrived and said that the income has not been good recently, said the eldest lady. The second wife looked at Xie Qingyu and continued, "I think a few shops at home don't make much money, and the expenses in the mansion are high, so it's not worth living. If there's a place that urgently needs money, it won't be able to turn it around. There are several estates at home, but the rent for those estates is not very high, which barely maintains the dignity of the general's mansion. It will be a bit difficult for anyone's family to hold a banquet, visit relatives and give gifts. So we were so worried that we had to figure out how to make the shop more profitable. You happen to be listening next to us, and it's time to learn how to manage the house." Madame looked at Xie Qingyu, her eyes constantly full of melancholy. "Auntie, what kind of business do we have at home? what kind of farm do we grow, and how much money do we have at home? Xie Qingyu's mind drifted with a few thoughts, intending to first understand the specific situation. There is only one tea shop, 2 silk shops, and 1 inn at home. The profits of all the shops add up to only about 100 taels of income per month. 3 of the farms have all been rented out, with an annual rent of 500 taels. There is also one who grows rice and grain for the family's expenses, so there is no need to worry about the grain. At present, there are only 3,000 taels of silver and 5,000 taels of gold gifted by the emperor 2 days ago. The rest are just jewelry and cloth in the warehouse. Although these 5,000 taels of gold are also movable, the men in the family are gone and there is no one to take care of. These 5,000 taels still need to be kept for emergencies. Speaking of which, everyone was somewhat moved. The Xie family started with General Xie, and all 3 generations went to the battlefield. Not a single one returned until the war ended, leaving behind these widows and Xie Qingyu, the only child. The eldest wife's uncle and 3 sons are all gone. The second wife's uncle originally had 2 sons and a daughter, but the daughter passed away prematurely. After her son went to the battlefield, he also disappeared. The third wife's father was an old man, not a few years older than her 4th brother, and he also went to the upcoming victory in this battle. Along with her grandfather, there were 9 men and 7 generals from the Xie family, all shrouded in horse clothing and killed in battle. Only a few elderly, weak, women, and children were left to guard their previous family business, and these days seem to have little ambition. And now the business of those shops is declining day by day, and the countryside is not very wealthy, and the entire general's mansion is only worth 3,000 taels. She had 3,000 in her own private rooms, and thought that the general's mansion should be quite wealthy. Who would have thought it would be so difficult? With so many private rooms, it seems that several aunts and sister-in-law have favored her, which is why she holds half of the Xie family's wealth. She really loves the feeling of being held in the palm of her hand. You have to find a way to make money no matter how much you drip. However, we still need to see the situation before we can implement it. After looking at the sky, Xie Qingyu advised, "Auntie, second sister, mother, we haven't come up with a solution yet. Why don't we go to the cafeteria first, and wait until tomorrow to inspect the shop before making a decision?" The reform of the shop was not in a hurry, and it was indeed getting late for a few people to see the weather. It was not good to keep the old man waiting for a long time, so they got up and walked towards the dining hall. Since the funeral of Xie Qingyu, the father of Xie Qingyu, everyone in the Xie family has gathered in the cafeteria every few days to have meals together, not for anything else, but for the sake of liveliness and solitude. When the dinner was almost over, the eldest lady whispered to the old lady, "Mother, the income from the shop hasn't been very good lately. We discussed going to see tomorrow, but there was something wrong." After hearing these words, the old lady put down her chopsticks and looked at the several young people sitting at the table. She said gently, "You can just take care of the affairs in the mansion. You don't need to report to me. Coincidentally, let them go with you, so it's easy to relax." Although women were not restricted from going out in this dynasty, they either followed their father and brother, husband, or elders when going out. More tolerant towards children, but mostly led by elders. The situation in the general's mansion can only be led out by the elderly lady and others. The eldest lady nodded, and the old lady stood up, supported by Grandma Wang, returning to Songtao courtyard. Everyone stood up and saluted, saying goodbye to each other before returning to their respective yards. The next day, the general's mansion and his group arrived at the southern street of the city and stopped at a silk shop called Xie Family Silk Shop. As soon as everyone got off the carriage, the shopkeeper welcomed them and greeted them one by one. "I don't know what orders the ladies have for coming this time," the shopkeeper asked as he led the way ahead. The eldest lady sat down at the table and said, "It's not a big deal. I heard our shop's business hasn't been very good lately, but what's the point? This." The shopkeeper hesitated and said, "Madam, I don't know. Recently, a new silk shop opened across the street, with better designs and varieties than ours. Many people have gone to that shop, and even our loyal customers will come and visit. The new shop, do you know who runs it? Madam asked. I inquired. It was opened by the wife of the Crown Prince Wude. Since there are not many varieties of colors in the shop, why not buy more fabrics of various colors and patterns? Madam San asked in confusion. The shopkeeper looked bitter and replied, Madam San is not aware that the cloth shop we previously worked with suddenly stopped supplying. I thought about finding another cloth shop to replace me first, but it seemed like we had made an agreement. When I heard it was our Xie family's silk shop, I closed the door and declined the invitation without discussing it. After much inquiry, I found out that it was the order given by the wife of the Crown Prince Wude not to cooperate with the Xie family silk shop. Therefore, the situation of the other branch was the same as that of this shop. Lu Yunxiang. She is deliberately against me. The third lady immediately became angry when she heard that she was still the wife of the Crown Prince Wude. The Xie family only compared money between these two silk shops, but Lu Yunxiang cut off this path of life, clearly pushing the general's mansion towards death. When it comes to the wife of the Crown Prince of Duke Wu of Wei, third lady Zhou Ruoyan still has some connection with her. At a young age, Xie Qingyu had already made military achievements, and the position of the general's mansion rose with the tide under his leadership. The young and handsome general with outstanding military achievements is naturally loved by countless girls. Apart from being a concubine in the palace or running for the throne, the position of the third wife in the general's mansion is very popular. Everyone wants to be these three ladies, and it's not an exaggeration to say that they have earned a lot of money for this position. However, in the end, they were led by the third lady Zhou Ruoyan. As one of Xie Qingyu's admirers, Lu Yunxiang, the wife of the Crown Prince of Wude, naturally harbored resentment upon learning of this result. Although the title of Lady Wude, the Crown Prince's wife, sounds good, she naturally wants a husband who has made great achievements and real power more than a husband who idles around, fights chickens and dogs, and has no achievements all day long. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Celebration Banquet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Celebration Banquet. Former Wude Ho had outstanding military achievements and was granted the title of Wude Ho by the former emperor. He has been hereditary for 3 generations, and if there is no success after 3 generations, the title will be revoked. The current Marquis of Wude has inherited some of the abilities of the old Marquis, not only holding the title of Marquis of Wude, but also holding the position of third-rank military wing captain. As for that cheap husband, he has no genetic inheritance at all. As the only legitimate son of the Ho family, he spends his days seeking pleasure and doing nothing. Every time he compares himself with Xie Qingyu, Lu Yunxiang feels a huge gap in her heart. With anger in his heart and nowhere to go, he constantly opposed the third lady Zhou Ruoyan and even hated the general's mansion. This time the general's mansion was weak, so she seized the opportunity to squeeze the general's mansion's business, in order to suppress the general's mansion. It's really bullying. Lu Yunxiang is so arrogant. It wasn't because of the reputation of the Crown Prince's wife, Wu Wei, that she bullied no one in our general's mansion. As soon as she returned to the mansion and sent away several young people, the eldest lady lost even her usual mild demeanor and spoke out uncontrollably in anger. Sister-in-law, please calm down. Your body is not worth it because of your anger. The second lady quickly stepped forward and patted the first lady's hand, comforting her. Sister-in-law, now that my husband has gone, there is no one in charge outside. The vast mansion relies solely on us women and children to support it, which is indeed difficult. After thinking for a moment, Madame San continued, although the emperor has appointed Qingyu as a 5th-grade general, it is not much different from those who are nominal. The reputation of the general's mansion still depends on the family. My husband's bones are not cold yet, and surprisingly, anyone can come and step on him. Third younger brother and sister, you can't say that. The name on Qingyu's head can be empty or real. The key is how we operate. Second madam said from the side after third madam finished speaking. The eldest lady's mind flashed with a flash of inspiration, and she patted the table and said, "The post I received yesterday said that the emperor will hold a celebration banquet in a few days. Although Qingyu is only a 5th-grade military commander and is not invited, the post states that as the heir of the general's mansion, Qingyu can attend the banquet on behalf of his father." Yes. The second wife agreed, this celebration banquet is our opportunity. For the Xie family, the emperor still feels guilty at this moment. Even if it's to keep the hearts of the soldiers in the world warm, he will make a statement and will not ignore it. If this matter passes in a while, the Xie family will really have no chance. Upon hearing the words of the two sister-in-law, Madame San hesitated and said, "But Qingyu is only 7 years old, so I'm afraid he can't handle such a big task. If he speaks recklessly at a banquet and collides with a noble person, the Xie family may be punished." Madame Eyre frowned and said, "Third younger brother, you are just too cautious. The situation in the mansion is already like this, and no matter how bad it is, it can go anywhere. If you don't act a bit, the general's mansion may not have a chance to stand out, and we will eventually be forced to death by this powerful figure in the capital. Today is just Lu Yunxiang, there will be Zhang Yunxiang and Li Yunxiang in the future. The matter of the Xie family's silk shop is just the beginning. If you want to live in this capital, you must seize power," said the second lady, turning her head to one side and no longer looking at the third lady. After the second lady's words, the third lady's doubts had largely dissipated. The first lady comforted and said, "The second sister's words also make sense. You also know the difficulties in the mansion now. How can we, a group of women and children, defend the general's mansion? Since the emperor has given Qingyu the title and invited him to attend the celebration banquet, this is our opportunity. Whether the general's mansion can succeed in the future depends on this effort. And even though Qingyu is still young, that child is quite clever. Although she has lost her memory now, her brain is still as agile as before. Don't underestimate her, you know." Based on Xie Qingyu's previous performance and observations in the past few days after amnesia, the third lady also felt relieved and agreed to the proposal of her two sister-in-law. However, after spending the past few days together, the child's etiquette still needed to be taught, so he spoke up, "So, for the celebration banquet in a few days, Qingyu needs to practice various etiquette more these days. Well, this needs to be put on the agenda. I'll start teaching myself tomorrow," the lady pondered and clapped the board. For the celebration banquet in a few days, Xie Qingyu suffered a lot. Starting from the hour of Mao every day, I have been studying women's etiquette with the eldest lady. After taking a break at noon, I continued until the hour of you. And because she is not only a woman, but also a military official, she has also learned the etiquette of generals, so she has been exhausted in the past few days. I originally wanted to sign in every day to save coins and diamonds, but I didn't even log into the King of Glory's treasure hunting system. If there's no sign, then there's no sign. Let's survive first. I practiced day and night for a few days, and the celebration banquet also came. Early in the morning, Xie Qingyu was being pulled to choose from left to right, one holding his clothes and the other holding a hairpin to compare. The whole family was busy with Xie Qingyu. From the hour of Yin to the hour of Wei, although Xie Qingyu didn't do much, he was still exhausted enough. Looking at his mother, aunt, and sister-in-law, who were still frowning and pondering, Xie Qingyu said in frustration, "Hey, don't think about it. Just take out the riding suit from my cabinet and wear it." With such a heroic demeanor, it may still be a beautiful sight. Upon hearing these words, the busy group of people realized that this idea was quite good. After all, Qingyu was also a captain in size, and wearing tight-fitting cavalry was probably more suitable for the occasion. After another busy day, Xie Qingyu followed Li Yunfeng in a silver-white riding suit. Li Yunfeng is the guard of Li, one of Xie Qinghua's trusted right-hand men. He has exceptional martial arts skills and left behind because he couldn't trust the elderly, weak, women, and children of the general's mansion. It has to be said that Xie Qingyu's decision is right. If it weren't for the Xie family and the escort team led by Li Yunfeng guarding, with just a few women and children, they would probably have been swallowed up to ashes. Sitting on the carriage heading to the palace, Xie Qingyu was looking at the card lying in the treasure hunting system backpack. Due to the need to go to the palace, she is also a modern person who has traveled halfway. Although she has studied these etiquette for a few days, she is still attending a national banquet. In this occasionally decapitating imperial society, it's better to be more appropriate. After much thought, this opened up the treasure hunting system. Click on the details page of Wu Zetian's experience card again. Empress Wu experience card, used to obtain Empress skills, can gain insight into the royal heart, officialdom struggles, backyard fights, and even the abilities of imperial subordinates, all of which are effortless. However, the experience duration is only 1 day. So precious, she needs to make good use of it and wait until she enters the palace before using it, otherwise it will be wasted. An hour later, Li Yunfeng and his guards drove a carriage to the entrance of the palace. After getting off the horse, Li Yunfeng walked to the carriage and said to it, "Miss 7, it's at the entrance of the palace. Get off the car." After hearing that he had arrived at the entrance of the palace, Xie Qingyu quickly clicked on the experience card to use it, and then lifted the driving curtain and jumped down. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Fantastic Praise. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Fantastic Praise. Leaving guards to guard the horses and carriages, Xie Qingyu and Li Yunfeng passed the inspection at the door before following the eunuch who was leading the way to the banquet venue. The attendees of the banquet were all high-ranking officials from the imperial court, and Xie Qingyu, as a child, looked very awkward inside. Ignoring the seemingly absent glances around, Xie Qingyu ate the dim sum fruit at the table and waited for the arrival of the emperor. I ate almost all the dim sum in front of me. When I stopped to wipe my hands with the handkerchief beside me, I heard the palace people sing and the emperor and empress came. Not long after, 2 bright yellow figures walked past and then stepped onto the high platform. After the emperor and empress were seated, everyone immediately stood up and saluted, saying, "Long live the emperor, long live the empress, long live the empress." After everyone stood up and took their seats, the emperor continued, "Since the end of the war, I have not yet hosted a banquet for all of you. It is only with the help of all the beloved ministers that we can share our worries and relieve our worries that we have the peace of the state of Zhao today. Let's put aside the etiquette for today's banquet and not go back drunk. Thank you for your kindness, Emperor." Everyone bowed again. The emperor gestured to the palace attendant beside him, and then heard them shout loudly, "Banquet." For a moment, everyone was pushing cups and exchanging cups, and Xie Qingyu knew no one except Li Yunfeng, so he could only sit idly and helplessly. Just as he was stunned, the high-ranking emperor spoke up and said, "As the main figure of this banquet, Xie Zioaking looks so desolate. Don't neglect the descendants of our Zhao heroes." Thinking about how to attract the emperor's attention, Xie Qingyu quickly stood up and saluted, "Your Majesty, don't blame your uncles and uncles. I am too young and don't know how to drink, so I can't drink with my uncles and uncles, which makes me feel lonely and desolate. Oh, coincidentally, my children are the same age as you. How about you come to the palace to study with them from tomorrow?" Seeing Xie Qingyu's upright figure and orderly speech, Zhao Yijian became interested and began to tease. "Your Majesty, I am not allowed to enter the palace." Xie Qingyu refused because he had used the Empress Wu Zetian experience card before entering the palace, so he could tell his joy and anger from Zhao Yijian's tone. Upon hearing these words, Zhao Yijian's teasing thoughts subsided a bit. With a calm voice, he asked, "Why can't we enter the palace?" Listening to the change in the emperor's tone, Xie Qingyu calmly said, "There are many elders in the family. Uncle, brothers, and father have all left. The emperor has appointed officials and inherited the general's mansion. As the pillar of the family, I need to earn more money and not let my aunt and others worry about money. Upon hearing Xie Qingyu's words, Zhao Yiqian's sympathy was also aroused. The Xie family was loyal and brave, defending their country and dying on the battlefield, leaving behind a group of deep backyard houses. As a 7-year-old child, the daughter of the Xie family possesses such filial piety, which is truly commendable. However, as a general's mansion, Xie Jiagui's private property cannot yet support a few women in the deep mansion. Zhao Yiqian suppressed his thoughts and asked this question. I remember how many shops and farms there were in the general's mansion, and these outputs were not enough to cover the expenses of the general's mansion. Do you need Xie Xiaoqing to worry about them? Oh ho, isn't the main play starting now? Xie Qingyu pretended to wipe the corners of his eyes and said with sadness and anger, there are only 2 silk shops at home that make more money. Now that my father has gone, others are deceiving me in cutting off the supply of goods. Moreover, they are not allowing those silk shops to cooperate with my family. Isn't this going to cut off our general's mansion? So, to support my aunt and sister. In law, I have to find a way to earn money, so I can't go to the palace to study. At the end, Xie Qingyu even forgot to mention it to his ministers and directly referred to himself as I. Of course, this was intentional by her. With Wu Zetian's empress skills, how could she possibly make such a simple mistake? After all, it is only natural for a 7-year-old child to have problems with their address when in a hurry. As early as the emperor spoke, everyone looked at Xie Qingyu and nodded at her words. Although the daughter of the Xie family is a daughter, her desire to support her family and revitalize her family at a young age is commendable. Looking at her clean and neat riding attire, with her hair tied high, and her strong demeanor, she looks no less impressive than her own son. From this perspective alone, it still has a strong sense of being a general. However, is it so difficult for the Xie family now? Even the silk business has been suppressed like this. A widow and a 7-year-old child are indeed not easy. Everyone thought about it separately, but Zhao Yiqian, who was sitting here, was already burning with anger. His courtiers guarded the border for him to defend his country, while his family had to worry about their daily livelihood. Just a few days after Xie Qingyu breathed his last breath, someone was suppressing the meritorious family under his nose, so he was not afraid that Xie Qingyu would sneak out of the ground. Someone, let me investigate. I want to see who is so bold and has done such a life-threatening thing. After a thorough investigation by Zhao Yixiangxia, he softened his tone and said, Xie Xiaoqing, you don't have to worry about family matters. With me around, if anyone dares to act like this, then his head won't want it anymore. Thank you, Lord Longzhen. Xie Qingyu immediately knelt down and kowtowed respectfully to thank you. Since that's the case, I'll give you 1 day to handle your family matters properly. The day after tomorrow, come to the palace to study. You'll stay in the palace on weekdays and return to the general's mansion when you're resting. After finishing these words, Zhao Yiqian turned his head to the empress who had been serving as the background board and said, tomorrow, please order someone to clean up the empty Qingqiu palace and let her live in from now on. Yes, I will have someone take care of me tomorrow. The empress nodded gently and nodded at Xie Qingyu, who was looking down. Thank you for your grace, Emperor. Xie Qingyu bowed again. You have to argue and study hard. Anyway, you are also the Wude's cavalry captain personally appointed by me. After learning well, you will be able to control the people under your command. Yes, I will study diligently and bring an army capable of conquering and fighting to the emperor. Okay. You truly deserve to be the leader of the sect, with ambition. Zhao Yiqian looked at Xie Qingyu below, who was neither submissive nor timid, but rather neither humble nor arrogant, and was very pleased. It was not in vain for him to ponder for a long time before finally granting her an official position. I thought it was just a false name, but seeing her sense of responsibility, perhaps she will make a difference in the future. Congratulations to the emperor, you have found another young talent. I believe Xie Qian will always be another wooden general. Yes, General Xie is heroic and has a loud voice. He is also a member of the general's family, and he will definitely have great achievements in the future. Previously, there was Mu Xiaolan expanding her territory, and now there is Xie Qingyu's stepfather's robe and bowl. Wonderful, wonderful. Listening to Zhao Etian praising Xie Qingyu, a group of people followed closely behind, and various kind words jumped out like they didn't need money. As the person at the center of the topic, Xie Qingyu's head is covered in black lines. Is it her who is being praised? There's no need to flatter like this. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Notification of entering the palace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Notification of entering the palace. Alright, everyone, please continue to drink freely. I and the Empress will leave the banquet first. Zhao Etian stood up from the dragon chair and interrupted the crowd who were still admiring. A group of courtiers, who were still praising for a while, suddenly stopped talking and stood up to salute, saying, I respectfully bid farewell to the Emperor, Empress, my Emperor, and Empress. As the Emperor and Empress left, everyone also stood up and bid farewell to the familiar people. After leaving the palace gate and getting on the carriage, Xie Qingyu rubbed his stiff face with a smile. These ministers are also going back to their respective homes, and they have to pull her around and say all sorts of good things. From her grandfather Xie Zhenhong to her uncle Xie Qingsong, and then to her second uncle Xie Qingbai and her father Xie Qinghua, even her 5 brothers are not left behind. Can't we all eat our own meals like at the beginning of the banquet? She really doesn't mind being ignored at all, really doesn't mind at all. There's no need to be afraid of her being alone or anything, and then everyone comes over to greet her, there's no need. After a banquet, Xie Qingyu knelt several times. While kneading her knees, she pondered, it seems that the easy kneeling invented by the little swallow in the Huanzhu grid has been put on the agenda. Thinking about entering the palace the day after tomorrow, there won't be many places to kneel then. Tomorrow, we need to have green bamboo and Baiji work overtime to do it. Also, she thought these ancient banquets were all jackals, wolves, tigers, and leopards. She accidentally lost her head and used all the experience cards carefully, but it didn't come in any use. It's a pity to waste such a precious experience card that I lost sight of. Sigh. Returning to the general's mansion, the lights were brightly lit and the whole family was still awake, waiting in the hall. Qingyu has returned, but everything went smoothly. Smooth, but smooth. Not only did it go smoothly, but it also blinded my only experience card. If I had known so, I would have been really meowing. Harmful, if you don't think about it anymore, it's like tears if you think too much. Upon hearing this, Madame's heart sank as she spoke, with the emperor in charge, the matter of the shop can be considered resolved. The old lady in charge glanced at the eldest lady and sighed, I think Qinghua has just been buried, and the emperor is reciting our family's credit. What's the use of thinking about it? If we can help for a while, we can't help for a lifetime. Our family doesn't have a pillar to support us, and our future life won't be easy either. Upon hearing these words, the third young lady immediately complained out loud. Third young lady is straightforward. She was originally married to third young master Xie Qinglin and raised eyebrows together. Just a few days after getting married, before getting along well with her husband, he went to the battlefield and later became widowed. The men of the Xie family, except for Xie Qinghua, the father of Xie Qingyu in the third bedroom, and Xie Qingyuan and Xie Qingchen, the 2 sons in the second bedroom, are all gone, and they are all widows. Not long after, the 2 unmarried sons in the second room were also gone, and the whole room left at home was filled with women. This is also okay, at least there is Xie Qinghua from the third room supporting the general's mansion, and outsiders dare not bully him. Now that Xie Qinghua is gone and there is no man to support the door, how can the people in this room live? Those who have no power or influence are not yet at the mercy of others in this capital city. Isn't the matter of the wife of the crown prince Wude just an example? Now the emperor is in love, it's better. If it's been a long time, this kind of oppression will never be less. Originally, everyone's heart fell to the ground, and the worried expression on their faces dissipated a lot. As soon as the third young lady said this, her face immediately turned pale again. Although what she said is also true, what can be done? The fact that there is no man in the Xie family is already an established fact. Nowadays, they can only stand up on their own and make a living on their own. They can't rely solely on Xie Qingyu, a 7-year-old child, to support their family. When the state of Zhao was first established, a wooden general emerged who, with the help of a woman, laid a solid foundation for the state of Zhao. Now they are just settling in this capital city. With the protection of the emperor, it's not as difficult as Mu Xiaolan who fought all the way back then. Expanding territory has become more difficult. Don't be too pessimistic about the three boys' family. Although the general's mansion is facing some difficulties now, it is still much better than those who have no fixed residence. The old lady thought that when she was young, 100 taels of silver were all huge money, and 10 taels of silver were enough for an ordinary family to chew on for a year. Moreover, the general's mansion has not yet reached that level. In the future, the expenses in the mansion will be reduced, and gifts will be given less during holidays and festivals, which can still be maintained. Upon hearing the old lady's words, everyone could only agree. What else can be done? The cost is only slightly lower, but it is countless times better than those poor families. The Grand General's mansion has fallen to the point where it needs to be compared with ordinary people, and it would be embarrassing to say so. Grandma, auntie, second sister, mother, first sister-in-law, second sister-in-law, third sister-in-law. At today's banquet, the emperor asked me to go to the palace tomorrow to study with the princes and princesses. After seeing the matter of the shop come to an end, Xie Qingyu finally spoke up about her going to the palace to study. Entering the palace. Going the day after tomorrow. But you want to live in the palace. There are many rules in the palace, you need to pay attention. Although entering the palace is a good thing, there are many nobles in this palace. If you accidentally collide with them, no one will be able to please you. Qingyu doesn't know what the future holds when he goes. As soon as they heard that Xie Qingyu was about to enter the palace, everyone became anxious and asked one question after another. Yes, I will go the day after tomorrow. I usually stay in the palace and only come back after resting. I will pay extra attention in the palace. Xie Qingyu answered one by one and said that he would pay attention to his words and behavior, so that everyone should not worry. To be honest, she is also a bit uneasy. She can't afford to provoke anyone in the palace. The master has the right, and a casual word can make people feel like they are in a deep abyss. The servants can make you feel uneasy and prevent you from doing well. This society where imperial power is paramount is really damn. Although I went to the palace to study, it was no different from accompanying me. Compared to the palace being constantly constrained by people and having to think twice about every word and action, Xie Qingyu prefers to stay at the general's mansion. But the emperor who holds the lifeline of the country has spoken, so she can only grit her teeth. A group of people didn't mention their various worries. When it was already late, the old lady arranged for them to pack their bags tomorrow and then asked them to go back to their respective yards. Returning to the Qingzhou garden, Xie Qingyu told the green bamboo by Xi that it was easy to kneel and asked them to make it tomorrow. If they could, they would make more. In places like the palace, this thing is probably used in many places. The matter of rushing to the silk shop tomorrow should be resolved. Now that the autumn harvest has been completed and winter is not far away, those few villages need to take some time to take a look and make use of it. She had originally planned to take it slow, but now she is mostly trapped in the palace and unable to implement any ideas. We need to find someone outside the palace to implement all of her ideas. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Wheat eggs. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Wheat eggs. The next day at Mao, Qingzhou garden began to get busy. Due to the urgency of time, she had to leave for the palace tomorrow, so Green Bamboo and White Ji got up early to tidy up the clothes that Xie Qingyu had to take to the palace for a change. Xie Qingyu didn't sleep for long either. After waking up, he washed up and ate some breakfast casually, then took the Green Bamboo to Madame's yard. Although Xie Qingyu has not yet figured out what the estate needs to do, he needs to sow the soil at the beginning of spring and have the mansion collect the estate first. Otherwise, if it's late, I'm afraid it might be the people renting the village who planted it again. Upon arriving at Lady Yimay's courtyard and asking if she had gotten up, she heard Lady Dongmei's maid answer, "As for Miss Seven, I got up. Lady is flipping through the books in the study. I'll go and pass it on now, maidservant." After Dongmei finished speaking, she had to turn around and go to the study. Xie Qingyu quickly called out, "No need, I'll go with you." "Yes," Dongmei answered and led the way ahead. "Miss Seven, this way." A few people arrived at the study of Yimei Academy and saw the eldest lady talking to several stewards. "Auntie, are you busy?" Xie Qingyu only said hello after the conversation ended. The lady, who was looking down in thought, heard Xie Qingyu's voice and quickly looked out the door. "It's Qingyu coming, come in quickly, sit here," she said after Xie Qingyu stepped into the door and sat down next to the eldest lady. She patted Xie Qingyu's hand and smiled, saying, "You have come just in time. The grain in the village has been collected now, and the silver money rented out from the village has also been collected. You happen to be watching from the side and learning how to manage the accounts. Auntie, this matter is not urgent. While several stewards are present, let the stewards take back all of our farmhouses. We won't rent them out next year. Stop renting. Qingyu's plan is for us to grow our own crops. Although we do need to earn more money by growing our own crops and selling them ourselves, Kyoto is dry and rainy, and the grain production is not high. Apart from the cost of hiring workers, it is not much different from renting out. Why bother like this? Auntie, is this rice that can only be grown once a year and the harvest is not good?" asked Xie Qingyu, who had already anticipated that Auntie would say so. "How many more seasons can we plant it? Not only rice, but also any crop, isn't it just one season?" Madame looked at Xie Qingyu. This little niece seemed to have some strange things from somewhere else. Since Xie Qingyu couldn't bear the blow of her father's death and fainted, although she lost her memory, she has been diligent in reading recently. "I always come up with various strange ideas from time to time, and when I asked, I found out it was from the agricultural books collected in the front yard study. Auntie, crops can only be grown for one season. That's a natural mindset. As long as they are properly managed, they can actually be grown for many seasons. Moreover, although rice is relatively expensive and delicious, wheat and eggs are actually quite good. Most people only use these two things to feed livestock, and a very small number of poor families will use them as staple food because they have not yet discovered their wonderful uses." Speaking of this, Xie Qingyu felt that there was some wasteful things. Wheat can be ground into flour to make noodles, pancakes, dumplings, steamed stuffed buns, mantou, etc. There are many super delicious things. And surprisingly, this place is only used for feeding chickens, pigs, cows, and sheep, because the wheat fruits are not delicious whether cooked or fried. Moreover, through these days of observation, Xie Qingyu found that the breeding industry here is very complete. Almost all households with a little extra money will raise some livestock, and there are specialized farmers who raise pigs, cows, sheep, horses, chickens, ducks, and geese. Even her own estate keeps some pigs, cows, sheep, chickens, ducks, and geese for the family to eat. Wheat and eggs are crops that have only been passed down in recent years, and people's understanding of these two things is that they are specifically used to feed livestock. Why? Because like rice, wheat doesn't taste good when boiled without its shell. Although it has a refreshing aroma, it still cannot compare to rice. It's not very delicious to stir-fry and eat like the seeds of a pea pod. So it is used to make grass for cattle, sheep, and horses. As for earthen eggs, they are the modern-day potatoes and potatoes. Eating a mouthful of starch raw is not as sweet and glutinous as boiling sweet potatoes. The taste is a bit worse, so only poor families will eat more for themselves, and the rest will be used to feed pigs. Most of the rice they grow and sell is still rice. Rice is valuable, and many people buy it. Although wheat and potatoes have high yields, they are not delicious. Most of them are bought by farms to feed livestock. If there are too many varieties and no one buys them, they cannot be sold. After all, even if livestock can eat them, the base is not as large as the population. So, this is a sales outlet. What kind of food in this world doesn't need wheat flour? When she gets out the wheat flour, all kinds of pancakes, xiaobing, baked cake and griddle, dim sum, steamed buns, mantu, people will know whether the wheat is delicious. At that time, everyone must grow more wheat or buy more. After all, wheat is one of the main crops, but it has become a staple food for livestock here. As for potatoes, they were passed down later than wheat, and it is said that they were passed down shortly after the end of the war. If it had been earlier, it probably wouldn't have been this result. After all, many foods in this dynasty were made with oil. If potatoes were made with oil, wouldn't they taste good? No, we need to quickly ask Auntie to buy more potatoes and wheat. Keep some seeds, the rest for the government to eat, and also store some for opening a store. Isn't there an inn at home? The inn not only manages, but also provides food. Once the finished product is ready for trial production, take it to the inn for supply and see the response. Alas, it was the restriction of entering the palace that restricted her. She originally intended to hold the 5th-rank official position given by the emperor and do business in the capital. She would first maintain her household income, and finally become bigger and stronger by seizing treasures to enhance her own attributes. As soon as the emperor opened his mouth, it disrupted all her plans. What other wonderful use are these things? Madame was somewhat skeptical. In fact, she has tried wheat. In addition to cooking, she has also tried to make dim sum like glutinous rice, but it doesn't taste very good. As for that kind of dirt egg, it just flowed in recently and was said to be cooked in water and eaten directly. My family also bought some fresh ones to eat, but the taste is not as delicious as sweet potatoes, neither sweet nor glutinous. My family has been busy dealing with Xie Qingyu's funeral recently, and then they have been busy because Xie Qingyu fainted. And then there was the suppression of the store, who had to teach etiquette to Xie Qingyu when he entered the palace, and he still hasn't had any free time until now. Madam, I haven't heard of the fresh way to eat this wheat, so I'll leave it at the moment. However, this local egg has been somewhat sought after recently. Judging from the popularity of local eggs, there may be more varieties that can sell well next year. I don't know how wheat will sell, but this local egg has great potential. The several butlers sitting on the side have been sitting quietly since Xie Qingyu came in. It was only after hearing the madam's questions that they spoke about the recent issue of the earthen egg. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Earth Egg Banquet. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Earth Egg Banquet. Oh, Manager Zhang, tell me what kind of popular method it is. Madame pondered to herself, it seemed that she had been too busy lately. She knew even the steward who was not in the capital. She was in the center of this news and had no idea at all. As for Madame, when this local egg was introduced, the person selling it said that it could be cooked and eaten directly by peeling off the skin. But the restaurant has developed a fresh way to eat homemade eggs. They classify them as seasonal vegetables. When the eggs are cut into strips and fried in oil, they have a refreshing aroma that is different from boiling water. People who have tasted them praise them immensely. So recently, the sales of local eggs have been unprecedentedly good. As soon as they are brought into Beijing, they are sold out, and now they have a price but no market. So, I highly recommend that we plant these local eggs next year. After the steward surnamed Zhang stood up and informed the original tale, He didn't forget to persuade the eldest lady to plant eggs next year. And this can also be considered as helping Xie Qingyu and increasing the credibility of her words, but should we do it so quickly? She hasn't asked the lady to buy potatoes and wheat yet. Did potatoes just flow in and be discovered? Manager Zhang's argument is that it's difficult to buy local eggs with such good sales, isn't it? Xie Qingyu's heart was dripping with blood, and no one was interested in his promise. Why is there a price but no market now? To be honest, I bought a lot of homemade eggs when they first went on sale. I heard that this thing is more suitable than sweet potatoes, so it's also feasible to keep it for this time next year. Moreover, the price was not expensive at that time, so I made the decision to buy more and wanted to use it to feed the pigs in the farm. Who would have thought that now it has become a food frenzy among everyone? The little one originally only wanted to keep some eggs for next year's trial planting, while the rest was used to feed pigs. However, as soon as they heard that the price of eggs had increased and there was no market for them, the little one immediately stopped the people below and stopped using them. Upon hearing Steward Zhang's words, Xie Qingyu's mood turned clear again and he stroked his hand, saying, Okay. I was just worried about not being able to buy some eggs, but I didn't expect Steward Zhang to have bought them long ago. I wonder how much is left now. As for Miss Seven, she has just bought it and has only been fed about 1,000 pounds. There may still be 30,000 pounds of potatoes left. Manager Zhang treats Xie Qingyu as an adult and always answers any questions. Although Xie Qingyu is just a child, Manager Zhang dare not underestimate him at all. After all, he is personally appointed by the emperor from the 5th rank to the 1,000th rank, and there are 1,000 people below him. 30,000 pounds. This is really an unexpected joy. How many pigs do they feed at home? They need so many potatoes. She thought the general's mansion was really miserable, so miserable that she almost had no money to eat. As a result, the chickens, ducks, geese, cows, sheep, and horses raised in the manor were all very wealthy. These 30,000 pounds of potatoes, for her, they are countless silver dollars. Unfortunately, the potatoes that got into the pig's stomach weighed over 1,000 pounds. Madam, Miss Seven, with the current high market price of potatoes, do you want to sell some? As soon as Manager Zhang finished his question, Madam and Xie Qingyu spoke out simultaneously. Buy a little bit and go out, said the lady. Xie Qingyu said, selling. Not selling. What? Madam turned her head to look at the excited Xie Qingyu and said, Qingyu, why is this? We can't finish these 30,000 kilograms of earth eggs at home, and we don't need so many seeds. Taking advantage of the good market price now, we can still make a profit by selling some. Auntie, this thing has only recently spread, indicating that there are not many people planting it. We need to seize this opportunity and maximize the value of the earth egg. Not only do we need to sell a variety of dishes, but we also need to sell food made with homemade eggs. There are so many dishes that can be made with homemade eggs. Today, let's all have a try. As for wheat, there are even more things that can be made, and it will definitely be as popular as local eggs. Anyway, we need to take back all our manors and not rent them out next year. You guys, the steward, will also stay and let you experience the charm of laying eggs later. After speaking, Xie Qingyu stood up and said, Auntie, let me go to the kitchen first to see how many dirt eggs are left. Remember to take Zhuangzi back. Upon hearing Xie Qingyu's repeated reminders, Madam couldn't help but laugh and cry. Since that's the case, let's take back all the Zhuangzi this year. According to Miss Qi, we won't rent it next year. After Xie Qingyu left, the eldest lady looked at several stewards and said. Yes, the butlers responded in unison. After discussing the matter, Miss Seven will keep you for dinner. Then you can sit in the front hall for a while and eat before leaving. After Madam finished speaking, she said to Dongmei standing beside her, Dongmei, take a few stewards to the front courtyard hall. Yes, Madam. Several people stood up one after another to bow and leave. Xie Qingyu came to the kitchen and had the potatoes peeled and washed for later use. Seeing newly slaughtered chicken and some pork ribs in the kitchen, I made potato platter chicken and braised potato pork ribs. In addition, I stir-fried shredded potatoes in vinegar sauce, sliced the potatoes thinly and brought them to the pot in hot oil. I also fried some potato chips. Take some more slices and fry until golden brown. Unfortunately, there is no chili, otherwise it would be even more perfect. Spicy potato chips are also very appetizing, and potato pancakes are also good, but there is no flour. Yes, this dynasty actually hasn't polished anything yet. Many dim sum are steamed with glutinous rice and then hammered with mallets. Just like making rice cakes in rural areas today. So the grinding wheel also needs to be prepared. Before entering the palace, draw the blueprint and let Uncle Li find someone to make one. Because there were many people in the kitchen, the dishes were quickly prepared, all made from potatoes. Of course, it was the cook who was in charge of the spoon, and Xie Qingyu was just giving guidance on the side. After all, although she knows roughly how to make it, her cooking skills are just not unpleasant. I don't know anything about the heat, and cooking depends entirely on luck. Sometimes it's delicious, and sometimes it's hard to swallow. Although they all learn from online recipes, they are different from what they eat outside the store, so they can only take a bite and cannot kill people. Because Xie Qingyu asked the kitchen to cook fresh food today and the weather was also sunny, Madam asked everyone to go to the yard to eat. Let's eat together or give feedback one by one. Several tables were set up, with Mrs. Xie, 2 aunts, 3 sister-in-law Xie Qingyu, and her mother sitting at the same table. Li Yunfeng, a few stewards and the butler in the mansion sat at a table. The old lady directly asked the servants to sit down at the nearby table and eat, without having to stand and serve. Today, Miss Seven asked the kitchen to make some new dishes. You all try them and see how they taste. Our family doesn't have that many rules, Xiaocui, why don't you take them and sit down? Xiaocui is Wang Mama next to the old lady, named Wang Xiaocui. She followed the old lady when she first started in the general's mansion. Perhaps because the old lady also comes from a commoner background, she doesn't place much emphasis on rules and is kind to servants. But if you don't know how serious it is because of this, the old lady is also swift and resolute, and the punishment should still be given. End of this chapter.